Phil and Will are back. We just had our final 7 episode of Survivor Worlds Apart. Tyler was the vote out. Not really that exciting of an episode. We also don't have boot list scored right now because we're on a little bit of a clock here. We're trying to rush, so that'll be. We'll save that for our predictions episode. But Tyler went. Neither of us were shocked. Will, what'd you think overall of the episode before we really get into it?
Probably the worst episode of the season, right? I think.
I would still say the Nina boot, just because it was a predictable boot. It was kind of bland still, but yeah, this was a weak post merge. It's funny. This is the one where the 6 breaks up, and it's the most boring episode of the show so far.
Yeah, I mean, at least for the Nina boot, it was like between Nina or Will, and we didn't really know We didn't know like 100% who was going. It seemed tonight, as soon as Tyler lost the challenge, I thought, yeah, he's going. Like, if you were we saw so much of him early on. It really seemed like this was his episode to go. And yeah, the Nina one, that was what, like episode 3? Like, those episodes aren't that good anyway. This is final 7. Like you said, the alliance is turning on each other for the first time. You would expect a big episode. I was expecting something really big, and I feel very let down by this episode.
Yeah, and I don't know if this has anything to do with it, but I mean, this has nothing to do with the episode, really, but do you think that we were kind of so hyped up for the second chance announcement that might have actually hurt the episode a little bit, because that was like hanging over our heads for the end of the episode the whole time?
No, because you and I, we already knew about it already. Like, we knew everyone on the ballot. It's not like we learned anything new. I wasn't excited for that, really. I didn't when I did the announcement. When Jeff did it at the end there, I was like, oh, yeah, they have to mention this for people who aren't obsessed with it, following it on the internet. And the whole Mike being in there is such just BS. He wins. There's no, especially now that Tyler's gone, right? Because you think if anyone could be like a good winner, Mama C what'd you get from Mama C tonight? Did you get? A negative vibe.
I got a negative vibe, but at the same time, I felt like this, if Mama C is going to win at the reunion, this is going to be the episode they pull all her quotes from. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
But I felt like she was negative. I agree with you.
Not that she was doing things or saying things negative. It just seemed it was always in a negative light. Like, it was being portrayed, just the way her tone, it had kind of this braggy, like, I don't know. I got weird vibes from Mama C tonight. We did see more of her, which is good. Still really not much from Sierra. Dan and Will are dead weight. And then Tyler, the second front runner, goes home. And Rodney complains the whole time. Really just totally negative. Looks like a complete ass. We'll get into that. And Mike is in the season 31 voting, but he wins. He has to win.
Yeah, I think what happened was, I bet you they were going to do 30 people for the voting. And then what ended up happening was they didn't want to spoil who wins, because everybody likes Mike right now. And if they don't put Mike on this list, I feel like it's almost telling everybody Mike wins the game. So I think they threw him out there as like a buffer. And to offset him, they throw in Carolyn too, which I am not happy about the Carolyn thing at all. I would have much rather had Haley. I know they were scared about Jen, but I would have much rather had Haley than Carolyn. I mean,
but if you don't include anyone who's still in the show, like still remaining, if you and like Tyler goes, Tyler's fair game, put him in there because it's announced after the episode's over. Just don't include anyone don't include the final 6 of this season. You're going to do another returning season at some point. They'll have a chance to come back. Why even put people that are still in the game? I think it confirms that Mike has won, actually, because they're trying to now trick us. It's like They're trying to.
Yeah, but let me ask you something though. Next week, I think Mike's going to be safe next week, but he's not in that great of a position anymore. Because
he's not.
There's a lot of infighting, but Mike has nothing now. Mike is on his own, and he has nothing.
I think Carolyn is warming up to Mike, and Dan still has his advantage. He's also really great at these challenges. I know Carolyn won today, but he was right there. I think he got like 3rd place or something. So he could easily win immunity. The thing is, I can't see anyone else winning right now. You want?
Yeah,
do you want to just?
I just think Carolyn, this was her episode to kind of be more of like, oh, she could win. Look, she can win. But I think we should take this from the top. Let's go from I don't even remember what. Oh, the night with the scramble. Everybody talking to Dan. Tyler comes up and confesses right away, and then Will confesses in a bizarre way that made no sense. What did you think about that?
Tyler made a good argument, and they were kind of all huddled on the beach, and it seemed like Dan bought it pretty well, like for as well as you could, because Dan takes everything really personally. We've seen him kind of get heated and go crazy, kind of. So Dan it could have been worse, and I don't think Dan totally bought what Tyler was saying, but it's not like he blew up, and he kind of understood it. And then Will, that was a weird scene because Will tells them, and then because I don't know, Will's explanation was, I thought everyone else was going to vote for Tyler, so I was trying to do what exactly? I didn't really.
He said split it, and I don't understand how that's supposed to make Dan feel better.
Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea. But then Dan says, it's okay, it's okay. He really forgives Will. Everyone's so forgiving of Will. He always turns on people. People either don't notice or they don't care. I don't know what Will's up to. But then Dan says to Will, we're going to go far in this game, really far. Can we see a Mike, Dan, Will final three?
Yeah, I could easily see it. And I was actually going to say to you, other than that, I think that we might get a Mike, Carolyn, Will final three. But I think tonight kind of solidified Sierra's not making the final three, and I don't think Rodney's making the final three. I think Rodney's going to be either fourth or fifth place. Maybe even next week. But I think Sierra's going to be – he was such – I was entertained, but he was such a baby. My God.
I guess we can get into that now because that starts pretty quick. He says it's all happy, right? Like it's his birthday before the challenge. He keeps kind of getting not screwed by this, but we've seen a lot of team reward challenges now and not a lot of picking. How many picks have we seen? I think Joe had one, and I think that's it, right?
I think that was the only one. I'm pretty sure it was just the Big Joe one at the beginning of the merge.
So I understand where he's coming from a little bit. It is his birthday. He has not been on reward. Carolyn's been on 4. Carolyn keeps saying how supposedly they were really close. They're really tight. But you knew right when he said what was that percentage thing? Like I know for
0.0000%
that someone's not gonna screw him.
No, that was that he was gonna win the challenge or get taken. Yeah, like there was a 0% chance that he wasn't going on the reward.
Okay, all right. He could have said right. Okay,
yeah.
Okay. So right when we knew that, and we've seen the preview, obviously, of him pouting, like you knew that his team wasn't going to win the reward challenge at all. No chance.
Yeah. Yeah. And we knew that he had to have his blow up on his birthday, and if he wins, he's not going to have a blow up.
And I think the funniest part here is that he was the reason they lost. That whole thing with the balls, and he had to go back through that netting and the whole challenge. I mean, if he doesn't cause them to lose, I still he overreacted, but it was so funny that he could have prevented all this by just winning. Maybe there's a reason you haven't won a reward challenge because maybe you're not that good at these challenges and you don't deserve to go.
Yeah, and I get why he's frustrated, and I get that he can be mad at Mama C, but he can't really be that mad at her because she won the challenge. And it wasn't like Jeff said, okay, now pick 2 more people. And she was like, oh, well, I want Mike and Sierra because I hate Rodney. It was just she had to, like, she didn't get to choose. She just got stuck with what she got stuck with. She shouldn't have to give up her reward so Rodney can go. She should be able to pick Rodney to join her on the reward. So I get why Rodney was mad, but he overreacted like crazy. It was great TV. I was entertained like throughout that. That was the best part of the episode was him throwing his hissy fit on the beach, doing the dishes and telling everybody he hates them and going on his rant. How long do you think that rant really was?
Oh, man, I don't know. I wouldn't want to be there. It seemed like a while. I mean, he was ticked off. The funny thing, too, was on the mat, like, just like, do you expect someone to give you? Or he's like, no, I don't expect it. They can do what they want. It's their own choice. It is my birthday, once in a lifetime opportunity. I'm not going to state my case or anything.
Yep.
And he states his case.
Yeah. That's what I love about Rodney, though. He's a hothead. He wears it on his sleeve. He tweeted out in the middle of the episode, he's like Joe Pesci in the Snickers commercials because when he's hungry, he's just not who he is. Like, I thought that was
Of course
hysterical.
they did. Yeah.
Because he's so mad. He was so mad.
Okay, so they go on the reward. We've seen this reward before. It's good. Feels good. Give some toys and books and clothing and stuff, bikes.
Yeah, I got to say this is probably the worst one, though, that we've had in a while with this. Because I remember with Kagayan, we had Wu coming out of his shell, and like it was Wu, Cass, and Spencer. That was a lot of fun. Did we have one in San Juan del Sur?
Huh.
I've erased that season. I've erased it.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying.
don't know.
I feel like we might have.
And Natalie probably went if we did. It might.
No, it was Jacqueline. Jacqueline went.
Oh,
with
that's
the
right.
kids.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Because of kids, and she was talking about how she can't have kids, and she'd be great with kids. I do remember that. But I feel like this was one of the worst ones because nothing really happened big here. There wasn't really much strategizing. It seemed like Carolyn warmed up to Mike a little bit, but we didn't get to see a different side of anybody. We didn't get to see like how great anybody was. It just these characters, who are they? Who are they are? Like, if that makes any sense. They are who they are. They are who they are. There we go.
They are who they thought they were.
Yeah, exactly. And we let him off the hook.
Mike's pretty good at soccer. I think we learned that.
We did. He was good ball control. I was impressed. But yeah, other than that, we didn't really get much. We didn't get much from Sierra. Like, these characters have just been played up for so long. And I think, once again, what it comes down to with this season is Tyler goes home, and it feels kind of disappointing because, like, this cast started off so great, and now it just seems like there's just, like, it's drudging along with it, like, who's left. Like, if, like, it could have been so much better. It could have been such a better Final Six. And the only way this Final Six would have been worse is if Mike would have been out of it and Tyler would have been in it. And I'm not saying I don't want Tyler in it. I'm just saying that if Mike wasn't there, we literally have nothing right now. Like, we really would have nothing.
Yeah. Again, if you go look at this boot order, you know, Haley, Joe, Jen, Shireen, Tyler. Those are some of the more likable people in this cast. Tyler, though he wasn't the most exciting player, he wasn't getting that much screen time, you could see him winning the game. He's been shown pretty positively. He seems really level-headed. He seems like he knows the game. He's gone now, too. So now we're really, really it feels like San Juan del Sur a little bit all over again with Natalie. It really does. It's kind of annoying.
The thing tonight is I liked what I saw from Tyler. Like, I was entertained watching Tyler. Like, I liked listening to him because he seems like he was always thinking a step ahead. But what I don't understand here is, like, we didn't get to see any more of him earlier in the season. Like, he started off hot, then he kind of disappeared a little bit, and then this episode focused heavily on him, and he was great. Like, why not just share some of the wealth with him? Carolyn was fine tonight. I mean, she seemed a little negative, but she was still fine. She was still there. They should have just evened it out a little bit more instead of – I get a lot of people have been getting confessionals, but when it's 8-2, that's still incredibly uneven, even if we're hearing from everyone.
It was 8-2 for who today?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying in general, like, just because Haley had a confessional every episode. She was getting 1 or 2 per episode. Mike and Rodney have a confessional every episode, but they've been getting like 5, 6, 7, 8 every episode. Like, that's a big difference. Even though people are getting confessionals consistently, they're getting, like, there's some who are getting a lot per episode, and there's some who are getting barely any, and there's really no middle ground right now of people who it could be like, hey, they came out of nowhere and won, but at least we've gotten to know them the entire time.
Yeah, Mike wins, right? Do you see any way Mike doesn't win right now? Any way? I thought Tyler was like the backup, you know?
I mean, I thought Rodney was the backup for most of it, but tonight he was so negative, and like people had to have been laughing at him tonight. Like, they had to have been the entire time.
Yeah. It's a bummer. Okay, let's get into Rodney's plan here, which I didn't think it was that terrible. I think everyone there, Will, Dan, Tyler, who were on the beach with Rodney, were like, yeah, he's just going crazy. He's losing it. But when he first said this, and I know Mike saw right through it, it wasn't the worst idea ever to say, look, I'm going to quit. I've had it. I'm pissed. It's a little bit believable because it is Rodney. So what do you think? What do you think of this plan?
Yeah, I didn't think this was a bad plan at all. Except I think that Mike is the best player, and when you're trying to fool Mike, it screws you. It's the same thing with Joe going to Mike with the idol. You just happen to be going to the best player with the idol.
And the guy who had it himself. He knows what it looks like.
Exactly, and I think that's what it came down to here. I think Rodney's plan actually made sense, and I'm happy that it was part of a plan and you didn't actually want to quit. But when it comes to Mike, it was just never you weren't gonna pull the wool over Mike's eyes. You really weren't.
Yeah, and it was so immediate too. He's just like, then why don't you quit then? You know, I see.
Yeah.
He called it on immediately, and then the best thing was that we never really got to see a reaction from Rodney about his plan not working. We didn't get to see kind of a follow up with it. And so even when they go to the immunity challenge, he just starts sighing and complaining. It's like he's still trying to sell this to Mike, and he didn't really get that Mike it just wasn't going to work. I mean, at some point he had to realize that because they didn't really talk about it at Tribal at all. But it seemed like at the challenge, Rodney was still like saying,
I think honestly at that point Rodney was fed up. I think that was more he's actually fed up than he's just bitter because he's trying to still convince Mike. I think he was a little fed up at that point and was. I
have such a hard time. I can't tell when Rodney is like putting on or when he's. It's tough because you want to think that, oh, it's Rodney. He's a silly, goofy Boston masshole kind of dude, but I think he's got some wit to him, and I think a lot of things he says and does, especially around when everyone's watching, everyone's listening. I think he thinks about what he says and what he's trying to do. I don't know if that was the case tonight at that challenge, but it was still funny to see. He is struggling. He's hating it out there.
And the thing with Rodney is most of his complaint, like his initial tantrum, was by himself down on the beach. So I think he is aware enough that he's making people mad. Like he doesn't like rub people, and he's gonna get started. He's gonna get heated. So it's just a matter of time.
Yeah, he didn't like explode. He didn't erupt. He was for a tantrum for Survivor. That was a pretty subdued, right?
Yeah, and how Dan goes, oh man, he went a little too far, and it's like, wait, but Will berating Shireen wasn't too far, but Rodney getting mad at Carolyn is too. They're all over the place. I don't even understand. But yeah, this didn't seem like it was a big deal.
I think Nina even crying was a bigger tantrum than what Rodney. I think Rodney's just he's really pissed. He's had it, and
he should be. But yeah, I mean, what the immunity challenge? This one, I'm never a huge fan of this immunity challenge unless this is the challenge they have to do is one man wins and one woman wins. Because
why?
I'm saying if they're gonna do it, this is the one to do it in.
I'm not even a big fan of the two anyway. It's sometimes cool, but
I feel like this is a challenge that because there's no weight issue there's a weight issue involved, but the weight isn't like in the other one when they're doing the hand thing, they're like, oh well, you're holding 25% of your body weight. Here you're holding your whole body weight. So if you're gonna do one where you're like holding on to something, this should be the one where the man and the woman each get immunity instead of the other one. I had no problem that Carolyn ends up winning, but I'm just thinking like back to Nicaragua when it was Chase versus Jane, and Jane decided she wanted to beat Chase for some odd reason because show you're a threat in Survivor, that's how you win games. But like that one, it was a man and a woman each one, and I feel like these are the challenges they save it for when it actually doesn't affect, like when they don't change it to your body percentage and stuff.
Okay, yeah, I didn't have too big of an issue with it. The problem that I have with these individual immunity challenges, whether there's one or two, is I want to see something that's a little bit easier, that takes a little bit longer. I miss the long challenges. I miss Jeff teasing them with food. We haven't seen that this season. I know Natalie did it last season, which was really silly with her ordering. I think Jeff should tempt them and bring stuff out. But like this challenge tonight and the challenge in last week's episode, it's something that looks very, very tough physically, like extremely hard to do. You're not going to be up there. I mean, how long were they up there today? Like 20 minutes?
They didn't even show a time, so it probably wasn't long at all. They moved down a knot. So what is that, 15 minutes?
Yeah, I think it had to be under a half an hour. I like the ones where it's not a physical thing. It's more a will. Like sure, it's going to be painful in some way, but for it to be completely physical, I think it should really get into the mental endurance. And those are the Survivor challenges I love. The just brutally mentally. I'm trying to think of like
I'm going to bring this one up because it has to do with the second chances season, and a lot of you probably aren't going to recognize the person because me and Will were even sitting here like that does not look like him at all. But Jeff Varner in Australia, that he did the infamous perch challenge that Survivor loved to do so often, right at the merge. He was the first person to step down, and then he got voted off for the food. He got voted off, and I think Tina and Keith went on for 8 hours or 9 hours in that challenge. And I love those challenges because all you're doing is stepping off for food. And in the case of Jeff Varner, he blew a shot at $1 million because he stepped off for Doritos or whatever it was. Because back then it wasn't a lot of food.
Yeah, that's funny too. Whenever you give someone an opportunity to step down, it adds some irony there, especially when they get voted off. They think they're comfortable and they go. That happened in Amazon too. The infamous chocolate and peanut butter challenge. I'm pretty sure Roger jumped off for food, and then he went home, right?
Yeah, because what it is with that challenge is there's no way you're falling off that perch unless you jump off on your own, and it's just it's a mental challenge. It's just complete will, like you.
Yeah, I could see something that falls in between there, where it's a little bit strength, a little bit, but not completely. I'm holding on for dear life from start to finish. I don't know. There have been tons of them throughout the years. That would be my only comment on these immunity challenges, and we haven't seen it yet. And 7, 8, those are perfect episodes to do that in. When you're down to 5, people aren't really jumping off for food. You have only a few days left, and it's all
too close.
Stakes are so high.
So. I always thought it was a great merge challenge because that was like when the game actually became like individual, and it was like, well, who's like really doesn't feel safe right now, and it was always cool to see like who wasn't safe but still couldn't resist the temptation, and I wish we saw that a little bit more now.
Right. Okay, so then Carolyn wins. Good win for her. That's back-to-back weeks. As soon as Tyler dropped it, I mean, he just couldn't hang in there any longer. I really felt he was going immediately just because one of the biggest reasons is that Dan, who we presumed was going to be the other target, he has this double vote advantage, and supposedly it plays out really well. And so that means Dan can't really go home until he uses that advantage, right?
Yeah, that's right. And unless Jeff was being ironic, there was no way Dan was going home tonight because then it wouldn't have played out well at all. It wouldn't have played out. But
we need to stop reading Jeff's things. It's hard not to because he's the guy. We want to get all the new info, and this was, I mean, we probably read this months and months ago at the end of San Juan del Sur.
This was when San Juan del Sur had just ended. He said there's a big twist in the next season. How are we not going to read that?
And then, he says it's an advantage and it plays out beautifully. So I assume Dan does cast a second vote at some point in time. Do you want to get into – let's just get into the voting in here and how it went down. I think it's pretty straightforward. They did secure the votes to ensure Mike has to play the idol. I was impressed with that, especially when there's two targets, Dan and Tyler, and people kind of in the middle not sure what's going on. I'm impressed that they were still able to say, look, Mike, you have to play your idol. We need to get rid of Mike's idol.
You know what, though? That's a huge mistake on Tyler's part, I feel like. Because he could have said, I'm voting for Mike, and Mike gets 3 votes, and he throws a vote at Dan. And, what he has to assume is he's going to get votes and Dan's going to get votes. So put the 3 on Mike. He's still going to play his idol because at that point Mike thinks you're going to throw 4 at him. And Tyler could have thrown a vote at Dan and tried to get more votes on Dan. And maybe it does turn out where it was 4 for Mike, 2 for Tyler, 1 for Dan. And Tyler threw his vote at Mike and it was a waste of time. He could have thrown it at Dan. It didn't turn out that way. Everybody actually voted for Tyler. But had somebody else voted for Dan, Tyler should have voted for Dan.
Yeah, even Will, who seemed to kind of be Tyler. Will's just so weird. We don't get anything from him. I mean, he seemed now to be pretty buddy with Will. And he voted with Tyler last week. We don't know. Maybe when Dan was going up to vote, Tyler told Will to vote for Dan, or they talked. I don't know. But Will, they seemed close, and Will seemed like he wanted Dan gone because he has this advantage, and they don't want that coming back to bite them. But like you said, Will even voted Tyler. Sierra voted Tyler, I think. No, Will voted Mike, right?
Yeah, all the guys voted Mike.
Okay. But it wasn't close. Dan only got 1 vote, I think.
He didn't get any votes. It was Mike.
No, yeah, Tyler didn't
Mike,
even. Yeah,
Carolyn,
that's silly.
Mike, Carolyn, and Sierra all voted for Tyler, and then the 4 other guys all voted Dan or all voted Mike. So what Tyler did wrong there is he should have said, "Hey, Carolyn, let's both vote for Dan, and we'll get it as a 2-2, and hope that everybody votes Dan out instead of me."
Yeah, if you're Tyler here, you know that you're the biggest threat besides Mike, and you know Mike has an idol. I feel like you have to be able to kind of figure that out.
I feel like this was his only mistake in the game, and it's why he's sitting in Ponderosa, because I think he could have easily tried to. I think he could have swayed this a little bit better. I think he thought he had it too in the bag. I don't think he really realized how hard he had to work to get this.
Yeah, I'm still not sure. What did he think was going to happen? He thought that everyone was going to vote Dan.
I think he thought him, Carolyn, and Will were all going to vote Dan. Or Carolyn and Will and Sierra were going to vote Dan. Or something. I don't even know. That's what I'm saying. The votes for Mike are such a waste from Tyler's point of view, because all he has to do is say to Mike, 4 of us are voting for you. You should be scared. You're going to get the votes, or the way they did it anyway, and then try to get other guys to vote for Dan instead. And then Mike didn't even need to play his idol, and then Dan goes home. But he didn't do that. Like, I don't get why he didn't do that.
Yeah. What about even talking to Mike, saying, look, I know you're on the bottom. Like, you're going to have to use your idol tonight, but maybe you can save it. Because I think if I'm Tyler in that position, I know I'm really down on the block. Like, this is my night to go. When he answered Jeff's questions, I would be surprised if it was me. I was like, are you serious? Like, do you not realize that out of everyone remaining, you are the biggest threat? Mike not included in that because he has the idol. I mean, you have to know that. And it didn't seem like he ever had it really secure. It'll be interesting to hear his exit interviews, what he really thought the votes were going to be. But yeah, maybe go up to Mike and say, look, dude, like, you don't have to play your idol tonight. Vote with me and figure something out. Maybe. I don't know if that's the right move, but it didn't seem like he tried enough things. He just kind of had that one conversation. And again, this is the edit we see. He could have known it was him, and he was scrambling the whole time. But even when Jeff asked him, "Did you scramble?" He's like, "No, I didn't. I wouldn't call it scrambling. I just talked with some people."
Yeah, and he said he would be surprised if he went home. So I mean, he went home, and I'm kind of upset Tyler's gone because, like we keep saying, it feels like Mike's going to win. And we got a comment on the video that from Edwin Hernandez that Mike doesn't win, they aren't going to have one winner on the ballot. Like, I'm thinking that Mike wins. And at the finale, they just say that the votes for Mike were void, and he doesn't count, and it's 10 other guys. Like, I just think that's what's going to end up happening.
100%.
Yeah,
not even that is there to mess with us because
if Mike or Carolyn doesn't win, who wins? You're going to tell me Dan, Sierra, Will, or Rodney's going to win after the episode Rodney had tonight, and after how invisible Sierra's been, and how vicious Dan and Will have been? The only 2 left in the game who can win are Carolyn and Mike.
And I don't even think Carolyn can really win.
No, but that's what I'm saying, though. The people with the 2 best chances are both on this ballot. And Rodney's at like a 0.00001% chance of winning. Everybody else at 0.
There you go.
You know, everybody else at 0. So the only 2 people who have a chance to still win are on that ballot. One of those people is going to be void from the voting.
Definitely. It's going to be Mike. I'm saying it now. This doesn't completely ruin the season because Mike is in such a not a very good position right now. If we think about it, like, he doesn't have an idol. He doesn't really have an alliance. He's still the number 1 threat. I don't think he's sitting pretty, but because no one else really can, if Mike goes and doesn't win, I'll be shocked. Maybe that's what they're setting up for.
What it is with this season is everybody keeps comparing Mike to Chris from Vanuatu. But the difference was once Chris got through the final 7, you kind of had a feeling Chris was going to win because he had the numbers the rest of the game. He had his alliance of 4. He had his alliance of 3 within the 4. And then he had his alliance with Twyla that was going to get – or he didn't have the alliance with Twyla. He had to beat Twyla and Scout at the end. But he knew he could do it to get to the end. Right now, Mike got through this vote, but it's not like he's sitting there pretty with 3 other people with him. He's got nobody with him still.
That's why I think it's going to be even more impressive to see how he pulls this one off.
I think this is going to be a season that if you rewatch it and you just watch it all like at once without really having all the time to think about like everything, I feel like it's a much better season to like sit down and rewatch and be like knowing Mike wins or whatever.
Exactly.
Like,
knowing Mike wins, I think will make this season better. because you're not trying to analyze the edit at all. You're not going week to week saying who has the best chances. If you know Mike's winning, it really is a great story that's being told, how he was in the power. He fell from graces all the way to the bottom, and pretty much a one-man alliance. He's going to just truck through and do this thing. And I know we're talking very early here. We still have 6 people left, but who are you rooting for now? I'm rooting for Mike now, just because it's the only way this story can finish with without having a bad taste in my mouth.
Yeah, I'm rooting for Mike. If Will or Dan win, it's a bad taste. If Carolyn wins, I wouldn't be that happy because I don't really like Carolyn. If Rodney wins, I would still be thoroughly entertained, and I would have to rewatch it just to know how the hell he won. If Sierra wins, it would be another shame on the editors for hiding a blonde girl who ends up winning the game. Like, another shame on you because you did it with Natalie White, and now you're doing it again. So, I mean, it has to be Mike. I'm rooting for Mike.
I am too, which it's like when I was rooting for Tyson Blood vs. Water. I knew he was going to win, but I was still rooting for him because I like him. He's a good player, doing the right things. How can you want Jarvis or Monica to win? Like, it's just no. Because I feel like we're going down a very similar path as that first Blood vs. Water season. Anything more else on the episode? I mean, like I said, I think this is probably the worst episode of the season.
Yeah, it was a lot of there wasn't much that actually drove anything forward and really shocked you. You know, it was kind of just like, Tyler. Like, we both had Tyler at the bottom of our power rankings in an episode that should have been really unpredictable.
Yeah, we did. And doing the power rankings, I totally forgot about Dan and the advantage. Like, we should have taken that into account. Like, I don't think Dan's going next week either.
I think his advantage is going to come into play next week. I mean, that's for our predictions episode, but I think it's going to come into play next weekend or next week.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what the hell do we talk about now? Anyway, my little guy at the bottom now. I don't have a logo or the season 30 cast.
Oh, it's Andrew Savage.
That's Andrew Savage, because I'm looking at the list here. And I know a lot of the old school people are going to remember. Like, I'm sure they remember Terry. I'm sure they remember Shane. Jeff Varner, nobody's going to recognize, but hopefully Jeff Varner finds a way. But Savage, man, that's one that I have wanted to see back on the show for a really long time, and I feel like people are going to kind of forget him. So please don't have too much recency bias and go for the little guy, the shirtless guy down at the bottom, because that guy should have been on the show a long time ago.
But Stephanie Valencia. I got to change my my icon.
She looks like the mother from How I Met Your Mother.
Really? Interesting.
A little bit. In her picture, she looks a little bit like the mother. Maybe I'm just going crazy, but she looks a little bit like the mother.
All right. We'll do a whole podcast.
A little more Latino. But yeah, so we'll probably do the actual, our season 31, who we want to get on, who we kind of don't think deserves to be there. When are we going to do that, you think? Because Friday, probably?
Yeah, we'll fit it in somewhere over the weekend. We'll try to do it before we do the predictions episode. So we'll do will be 3 podcasts in probably 5 days.
Yeah. If this one even counts as a podcast. I mean, this is just disappointing. There's not much to talk about because not much really went down.
Rodney's birthday, he thought it'd be more exciting.
We should have actually known that, because the only hype around it was that it's Rodney's birthday, that nothing was going to happen.
True. That's a good point. Okay, let's look at the comments we do have here. We already brought up Edwin Hernandez about the ballot. We do think that just because Mike and Carolyn are on the ballot, that they are they're decoys.
Yeah.
And Richard Marquard. Ooh, it's a tough one to pronounce. Marquard. Do you think Rodney, Dan, and Will target Carolyn? With Dan's extra vote, they could have a possibility to blindside her next week. Maybe. I could see that. I feel like Carolyn is aware enough, though, that she will play her idol. And no one knows she has her idol now. I guess we didn't talk about that. Tyler was the only one who knew, and she said that in her confessional. And when she said that, I was like, wow, this is a slam dunk. Even more confirms that she's going to turn on Tyler. It didn't seem like that hard of a thing for Carolyn to turn on Tyler, compared to some of the other partnerships that we see in Survivor. They were always together, but we never really saw them form this really strong bond. We just kind of assumed it was there.
I think this once again comes down to the negativity of Carolyn's edit in this episode. I think that they kind of wanted to show her a little more negative light, and they didn't want to show how hard it was for her to do it. When I think it probably was a lot harder of a decision than they made it out to be. I think we haven't seen enough of them, and it's like, oh, Mike's still the hero, and if Mike goes to the end with Carolyn, you want to have a reason why Mike should win, and Carolyn, she flopped and she flipped. Flippers never win. She flipped on her own alliance, I don't know.
Yeah, so is that even a flip? I think
I don't even know.
I don't think it is. I wouldn't consider that a flip because her whole alliance voted the same way. It was a plan.
Yeah.
Smart by Carolyn, though. I mean, I know she voted out Tyler, the guy she's been with since day 3, on a tribe with since day 1. But Tyler was the biggest threat. You have to take him out there.
Oh yeah, anybody goes to the end against Tyler, they lose,
except for Mike. But but that would be a good battle. That would have been great to see. That's one of those where if Tyler were going to keep up this pace of confessionals like he did tonight up until the finale, and it was Mike versus Tyler in a final 3, that could be very exciting. That can now. If
Tyler didn't go tonight and he had the episode he had, I would have sat there and been like, Tyler could easily win this game because he had a big episode tonight. Like he really did. It's just a shame that it had to be the episode he goes home.
Right, and there's something when I talk about and when you talk about this, the boot order, and it sucks that the people we like go home. There's nothing Survivor can do about this. It is what it is. I mean, Dan and Will are in the final 6, and you can't really be mad at. You can not like it, but you can't be mad at production or Survivor for letting that happen. You have to let the game play out how it plays, and just kind of say it is what it is when it happens. Sometimes we get good seasons, sometimes we get bad seasons. This is still a pretty good season, despite the people that are remaining.
Yeah, I'd say it's middle of the road, but one of the best seasons I think for the entire show is Micronesia, and I'll go out there and I'll say I didn't like that final. I didn't like the Black Widow alliance. Like I did not like that final 4, but I sat there and I enjoyed every single episode because they were stirring it up and they were going crazy. Just so happened that 4 people I wasn't rooting for were left at the end.
You don't like Cirie?
I respected Cirie's game on the rewatch, but I didn't like her in Panama. So I wasn't really.
You didn't like Cirie in Panama? What?
I did not like Cirie in Panama. I'm sorry. I mean, she played a really good game. You? No, it wasn't. It was just that I didn't, because Terry was there, and I was so blinded by Terry, and I liked Shane so much, who are both on this ballot. I just was rooting for them so much harder. I mean, I was young when I watched Panama too, man. You got to remember that. Like that was when I only rooted for men because that's all little boys should root for. I mean, I wasn't really rooting for Cirie. It was men and the hot girl. Like I wanted to know why, why did everybody yell at Courtney Merritt? Because I thought Courtney Merritt was hot back then. Like, you know what I'm saying?
You thought Courtney was hot? What about Danielle?
I don't know. I'm sure my little mind probably did. She was the hottest one on that season, probably.
Hotter than Danielle?
I didn't think Danielle was good looking. She had an annoying accent. Anyway, we're really getting sidetracked.
So did Courtney, though.
What?
Courtney had like a weird kind of accent too.
God, that's a good season, man.
That's a fun one. It's a fun
that
one
is.
for sure. Okay.
Now we're really
we didn't really answer this question. Do you think Rodney, Dan, and Will will target Carolyn? They could.
Yeah.
They could.
They could.
I just don't see.
I wouldn't be surprised at all if Will and Dan actually end up taking control next week, and it ends up where Mike goes on an immunity run at the end, and Will and Dan kind of control the votes from here on, and then Mike sits next to them at the end, and that's the final 3, and Mike wins 9-0, and it's like Earl versus freaking Dreams and Cassandra. It's just a pathetic final 3 where there's no chance anybody else can win or even get a vote.
That would be funny. It'd be a funny way to end if it would be a 9-0, because I feel like the chances of having an exciting, riveting bloodbath of a intense final tribal, like an All-Stars tribal or Ozzy versus Yule or something epic like that, the chances of that happening are almost 0. There's just no one that can go against Mike, really. And even if Mike's not there, it doesn't have that. We're not going to get that. So they might take the route. They might do a Drew Christie edit for the final tribal council. That's what that's what we're leading to. Do you get what I mean by that?
Maybe.
A Drew Christie edit of a final tribal?
It's just going to be all about Mike, or is it going to be all hate towards Dan and Will?
It's going to be obvious as hell. They're not going to try to hide their hand. They're just going to lay it all on the table, make it entertaining as possible, and not try to have any suspense with the winner. And that was that whole Drew Christie episode. It was just so clear that he was the one going. But it made for awesome TV.
Well, I honestly think that the best part about the finale is going to be finding out who's on the next season's cast, because I really don't think that there's going to be any drama other than that. Like, I'm going to be sitting there biting my nails for that. I don't feel like I'm going to be biting my nails at a single point during the episode.
Yeah, that's true. But at least we have that to look forward to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe they knew the ending of this was so weak that they had to – maybe that's how they got the idea. We have to do something crazy at the finale.
Maybe. I don't know.
We got Steel Punch. Right now on ballot, number one male is Keith Nail from San Juan del Sur. I couldn't disagree anymore. I honestly like –
Keith is my bottom male. I'm sorry, he's ahead of Brad Culpepper. Otherwise, I have him just ahead of Brad Culpepper.
I wouldn't totally mind seeing Keith again, but I feel like the men, there's so many good players to come back. I don't want to waste a spot on Keith or Wu. I want to see I want people who know the game. I don't want someone who says stick to the plan and ruins a vote. I don't want someone who doesn't know what the tiebreaker is in the Final Four. Like Wu didn't know that. I want someone who really is a player. Right?
It's not so much with the women, but with the men, the old school players are so good. And I would be heartbroken if anybody preseason 20 doesn't get on. Because I think there's 5 of them. And I think it's Jeff, and it's Savage, it's Terry, it's Shane, and it's Steven Fishbach. And all 5 of them need to be on the season. Like, all 5 of them have to be on the season.
And they will be, I'm pretty sure.
I'm hoping everybody remembers, though, Jeff Varner, and I hope they remember Savage, because those two I don't know if they're going to remember, and I really hope they do, because both of them were great for the show. Like, they really were.
I would just hate to see, like, Wu be there.
I would hate it if it was Wu, Keith, Joe, Max, Mike, like, even though I don't think Mike's going to be on it, but, like, if it was just all people from, like, the last 5 seasons, I would be miserable, because you're missing out on gold. Like, there's gold back there.
Do you think CBS can just BS the votes and say, hey, this is who we want? I
voted. They don't tell you the percentages or nothing. Like, I voted already once, and they don't tell you anything. So they probably can.
Well, they also want to have some surprise when they announce it. That's probably why they're not showing the percentages now. But I don't think they'll ever show the percentages. I don't think it's real. I don't think we're actually voting them in. I think it's a big publicity stunt, get people excited. What's the phrase I'm looking for? It's
conspiracy.
No, it's something. Oh man, I'm really close. It's like a glass screen or a smoke screen.
It's the roof. It's a glass ceiling.
No, it's not a glass ceiling. I think it's a smoke screen.
It's an arachnid. A scorpion is an arachnid. Don't forget that.
Okay. All right. Okay.
I had to.
Let's get back. We have Steel Punch again. By the way, Dan for MVP, of course.
I can't take Steel, dude.
He found out Will voted for him, and he escaped the vote once again. He saved his advantage. He deserves it. Come on, guys. Give Dan some love. Who gets MVP this week? I didn't even –
Carolyn.
I mean, I have to nominate Dan because he's the only one left on my fantasy tribe. So I think Steel Punch makes some great points here.
I'll nominate Mike for no apparent reason, but it's got to be Carolyn because she played the thing. She got rid of her closest ally. She still has her idol. She won immunity. Like, it's got to be Carolyn, I think.
I think it's Dan, just because of the thing Steel Punch said.
Yeah,
I couldn't even get it out without having it.
Let's see if you still agree with Steel Punch after his next one. Okay. Read his next one and tell me if you still agree with Steel Punch.
All right. Number one female is a tie between Abby, Maria, and Kimmy.
I feel like he might be like I feel like he's trolling us all the time. Like, I really do, even though it's really funny. Like, Steel Punch, don't stop commenting because you kill me. But you hate Abby, Maria, and Kimmy so much.
I don't hate them. I don't want to see them play because, Kimmy would be interesting. I think Abby Maria, she's going to do the same thing that she did. I don't think she has a good chance of winning. I want potential winners in my cast. If I can do a dream cast, I want people who are like, wow, yeah, that person can win. Abby Maria cannot win the game. She can't. No, she's not likable enough. People will get irritated with her. Unless she totally changed and turned it around. I know she was entertaining, but man, I don't there's too many people that are likable that can win.
And a lot of times what happens with the women, at least I noticed in kind of heroes versus villains, and like sometimes like even with the Amber back in All Stars, they kind of get a little overlooked their first season, and when they come back for a second season, they kind of shine a little bit. And it does happen a lot with the women more than the men. I mean, Parvati was great in Cook Islands, but she was so much better in Fans versus Favorites. Like she was so much more of a character. And I feel like that could happen. There's a lot of women on this thing right now where Stephanie Valencia, Natalie Tenorelli, like they could end up doing something.
I'd like to see those two, especially because Natalie Tenorelli played when she was 19 and got to the end. I know Boston Rob led her right to the slaughter, but she was 19. Like that's she's probably grown up a little bit and has some, learning to do. She's someone that's likable enough that could actually get votes if she goes to the end. And Abby Maria, though, she's probably more entertaining and was more of a star of her season. She's not gonna get the votes for the $1 million.
Yeah, it's true.
I think Cass, and people will say, well, does that mean you don't think Cass should be? You don't think she should be in the cast? I think Cass could win, honestly. If she has learned from her first season. I think Cass is able to learn. I don't think Abby Maria has learned.
I think Cass learned a lot about herself from that first season, the way she acted with Tony and Spencer and stuff. And I think she actually learned a lot, and she realized that if she goes back on the show, I think she kind of wants to win more than she just wants to go out there and annoy people. And I think the first time she kind of went out there and was like, I'm going to win this by being annoying. So
I think she just wanted to be like a star, like Chaos Cass. She came up with that herself. She was the one trying to make entertainment, but now she's done that. And she is kind of a survivor star, a villain. Now I think she's going to play it really serious. Kind of like Tyson in a way. I know it took him 3 tries, but he was kind of just there for the hell of it in Tocantins, having fun, having snarky confessionals. And then by the third time he played, he was pretty much a game bot.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, but I guess we'll get to Peter Rubenstein's comments on when we do the actual episode, because it is, I mean, he does have something in there, but you got to go or something, right? Like we're kind of close here.
Yeah, I mean, I would read more comments if we had more, but those 3 comments are about, the
one is about this season, just who he wishes made the merge and who he didn't wish, but we can just do that even when we do the predictions. So.
Well, we teased everyone with it now. I think we have to just say it. This is what Peter wishes. It's merge, Vince, non-merge. Does that mean
people pre-merge and then people at the merge?
Okay, because they're in the opposite order. So non-merge would be Dan, Lindsay, Sierra, Shireen, Will, and Nina. I tend to agree with that.
I just like Sierra. I would have liked to see Sierra stay a little bit, but I just like Sierra.
And then merge, Vince, Max, Mike, Carolyn, Jen, Tyler, Joe, Haley, Rodney, Kelly, Joaquin, and so. We can't. I mean, nothing we can do. There's just nothing we can do about having the fun. I mean, there's just, you got to deal with it.
And I think that you do look at this early cast, and other than Nina, you sit there and you're like, my God, they had so many characters go pre-merge. Vince, Joaquin, so even Kelly was like something. You know what I mean? And we got none of it. Even
Max, Max could have done some really cool things because I think he knows the game well. He was just too annoying, and I can't believe that's what got him in the end.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was it was a lame episode tonight. It just didn't deliver like the other episodes have. And what's funny about it is the last 4 episodes was a pagonging, but they were still really fun, exciting, entertaining episodes. And then here we get the kind of a blindsided pretty much. He said he would be surprised if he went home, yet it kind of felt like we knew Tyler was going anyway. So
yeah. Well,
okay. Yeah, we'll do the ballot podcast sometime this weekend, and then we'll do probably the prediction one either Sunday or Monday, whenever we get a chance to do it.
Yep.
So yeah, thank you for listening.